Welcome to the D-Wave Difference. Your program will begin in 10 minutes. Good afternoon. The D-wave difference will begin in 5 minutes. The D-wave difference is about to begin. As a courtesy to your fellow attendees, please turn off all electronic devices.
Quantum computing is no longer a distant promise. It is one of the defining technologies of our time, but the market is noisy. More companies, more claims, more hype, and not enough proof. So how do you find the signal? In quantum computing, the company built to lead will do three things: participate across the full quantum computing market, deliver commercially viable products, and create measurable customer value. That is where the noise falls away and the signal becomes clear. We believe one company has a direct path to all three, with quantum technologies designed for a wide range of computational challenges, production-grade products already in market, and customers using them to tackle real-world enterprise and research problems. Built for today and what comes next. This is the signal. This is D-Wave.
Please welcome to the stage Senior Director, Investor Relations, Kevin Hunt.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all for joining us today for D-Wave's first ever Investor Day. Thank you for all of you in the room for joining us, making it all the way down to the NYSE. And thanks to all the hundreds that are listening to the live stream online. We've got a great lineup of presentations for you today. So hopefully you'll all be quantum experts by the end of the day. Just a few notes on the agenda. We will be having several opportunities to ask questions during the day. Our CEO, Dr. Alan Baratz, will answer some questions from people in the room following his keynote. We'll have two other places where you can ask questions. For those of you in the room, please raise your hand and we will bring a microphone to you. We ask that you identify yourself before you ask a question and that you also limit yourself to one question. Following the end of the last Q&A session at the end of the day, we will be having a reception for people out in the room. In the back room there, from 4 to 5. You'll be able to see some demos and meet with the members of the D-Wave management team. For those viewing online on the live stream, you also can ask questions via the Ask button, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can. So, turning to the ever-popular disclaimers, we will be making, members of D-Wave's management team will be making forward-looking statements over the course of the afternoon. There are always risks and uncertainties associated with any such forward-looking statements. You can see a list here in the slide behind me. And this investor deck has been posted to our company website, so you can see the list there as well. If you want even more risks, you can go to our 10K filed with the SEC and also available on our company website. We also will be referring to some non-GAAP financial metrics such as bookings throughout the day. And we may, in case that other non-GAAP financial metrics come up during Q&A, you can see a full list and descriptions of those in our earnings releases, which are available on our company website. So with that, I'll turn it over to our CEO, Dr. Alan Baratz.
Please welcome to the stage D-Wave's President and CEO, Dr. Alan Baratz.
Good afternoon. So my name is Alan Baratz. I am the CEO at D-Wave. I have no clue who that guy in the picture is. It's a real pleasure to be here with you all today. I thank every one of you who took the time to come down here to the New York Stock Exchange and be here in person. Thanks also to those of you that are joining us via the live stream. There's quite a bit that we would like to cover with you today, but honestly, the Q&A sessions are equally, if not more important. We want to make sure that there's plenty of opportunity to ask questions, and so we've allocated 3 different times for Q&A, and hopefully through that we'll have the opportunity to answer most, if not all, of the questions. So I'm going to start with the obligatory picture of Richard Feynman, although hopefully you haven't seen this version of the picture before, since our excellent graphic designers made it up. Richard Feynman, of course, coined the term quantum computer back in 1981. And he's famous for a number of other interesting and important commentary on quantum mechanics and quantum computing. One that I think is particularly relevant to us, and by us I mean the entire quantum computing industry here today, is the one that we have up on the screen. If you think you understand quantum mechanics, you don't understand quantum mechanics. This is very complex technology. The problem with that is that it's way too easy to say misleading things and to spew hype into the marketplace. And it's hard for all of us to be able to separate all that noise from the signal. And so, part of what I'm hoping to do here today is, at least for D-Wave, help you think about how to separate the signal from the noise and how to think about D-Wave in the context of what we are telling you against, if not the science, at least sound logical thinking. So I'm going to start at the very top. What is quantum computing? For me, quantum computing is energy-efficient computing for solving hard computational problems. That's typically not where people start when they talk about quantum computing. But I start there because quantum computers consume very little power. And on top of that, they use quantum mechanics to compute the solutions to problems very, very quickly. And that combination truly allows them to be much more energy efficient at solving problems than classical computers. Now, there's more than one approach to building a quantum computer. And this is particularly important in the context of understanding D-Wave and how we are different from every other quantum computing in the industry. There are two main approaches to building a quantum computer. One is called annealing, and the other is called gate model. For those of you that have been following us over the years, you've heard us talk quite a bit about annealing because, frankly, we started with annealing, and we're the only company in the world today that brings annealing quantum computers to market. As we go through the course of the day, we're going to talk not only about the power and value and roadmap for annealing, but we're also going to talk about gate model because we are now also a significant player in gate model quantum computing. But before I dive into it, let me just take a minute to try to explain the difference between gate model quantum computing and annealing quantum computing. And I'm going to start by talking about classical computers. So, typically you'll hear people say that classical computers use bits to store information, and a bit can be either a 0 or a 1. And this means that at any point in time, the information that the classical computer is seeing is one possible solution to a problem. It's how zeros and ones have been assigned to the various bits. That shows you one possible solution. It's like dropping a tennis ball into a landscape, and it hits at one point. Now, suppose you want to find the overall lowest point in this landscape, which is the valley to the left of this image. Well, how do classical computers work? They basically perform computations and logical operations that attempt to explore the landscape one point after the next. They're moving that tennis ball around point by point, looking for the lowest possible point. Now, if your landscape is simple, like a bowl, it's easy. There are very efficient algorithms for finding the lowest point. You can get there quickly. But if it's a complicated landscape, this is actually an exponentially hard problem. What it means is there's not enough structure in the problem to be able to efficiently find that lowest point. The amount of compute time is exponential in the size of the problem. And this is exactly the kind of problem that's good for quantum computers, these very hard computational problems. So how does a gate model quantum computer work? Well, gate model systems use qubits, and a qubit can be 0 and 1 at the same time, which means that at any point in time, you're able to see multiple possible solutions to the problem, not just one possible solution. And you're able to perform operations on those multiple possible solutions simultaneously. Computations, logical operations. So the problem becomes one of not kind of figuring out how to follow the ball to the lowest point, but you've got all the balls. You can see all the points. Now the algorithms are all about figuring out which one of those balls is actually at the lowest point. It's a different way of thinking about computation and how to program the computer. But there's one other important point about gate model systems, and that is quantum mechanics was not really designed to support digital computation. So as we build these gate model systems, we're trying to implement digital quantum computation on quantum mechanical systems. We're pushing against nature, and that introduces errors. That's why gate model systems are so error-prone, and why without the ability to correct those errors, we're never going to be able to solve useful problems on gate model systems. So error correction is critically important for gate model systems. Annealing quantum computers work in a very different way. Annealing quantum computers are really all about finding the lowest point in a large landscape. They're about using quantum mechanics to find what we call a low energy state. It's working with quantum mechanics. You can think of it like dropping water into the landscape and looking at where it pools. It pools at the lowest possible point because the water is able to tunnel through the hills and valleys and get to the lowest possible point. Annealing quantum computers use quantum mechanics to do exactly that. They use superposition, they use entanglement, and they use tunneling. They work with nature to find the low point or solve the problem, right? And as a result, they're nowhere near as sensitive to noise and errors. And that's why our annealing quantum computers are solving hard customer problems today without the need for error correction. But both are important. There are problems that require annealing. Specifically, business optimization problems are well suited to annealing. Gate model systems are not very good at solving them. And there are problems that require gate model. Quantum chemistry, for example, materials discovery. These are well suited to gate model systems, not very good at solving optimization problems, right? You need both annealing and gate in order to be able to address the full market for quantum. Okay, so now how do we think about finding the signal within all the noise that's going on out there? Well, we think that to be successful in the quantum computing industry, you need three things. One, you need to be able to address the full market for quantum, all the possible use cases. Two, you need to do that with viable commercial products, not research tools, but viable commercial products. And three, you need to be able to deliver measurable customer value in using those systems. Address the full market with commercially viable products, delivering measurable customer value. And we think that D-Wave is right now pretty much the only company in the world, the only quantum computing company that can address and deliver on all three of those, and I'm going to explain why. Let's start with the first, address the full market. Okay. So there are many different TAM analyses that have been done by different consulting firms, TAM, Total Addressable Market Analyses. You know, Boston Consulting Group has done it, McKinsey has done it, a variety of other consulting firms have done it. But the one that most of the industry has latched onto for 5 years now is the Boston Consulting Group study. They put it out initially about 5 years ago. They refreshed it about a year ago. BCG puts the total addressable market for quantum at just under $1 trillion in roughly the 20-year time frame. And they divide it into 4 different technological segments or use case areas: cryptography, optimization, machine learning or AI, and simulation. And they assign a value to each of those, adding up to the $850 billion total value. Well, if you think back to what I said a few minutes ago with respect to annealing and gate model cannot address all of these. Annealing cannot address all of these. Gate model, for example, is required for quantum mechanical simulation, drug discovery, materials design. It's also quite good at breaking codes, right? Annealing quantum computers are required for optimization problems, workforce scheduling, manufacturing plant floor optimization. You need both to address the full set of use cases for quantum computing. And D-Wave is the only company in the world bringing both annealing and gate model to market. We're the only company in the world that can address the full TAM for quantum, the full set of use cases for quantum. In addition, sometimes the gate model companies will have optimization envy. They vacillate between, oh, we can do optimization as well. Look at, we've solved this optimization problem as well as it can be solved on a laptop. See, we can do optimization as well. Okay, as well as it can be solved on a laptop, what about solving it better than it can be solved classically? There's significant both theoretical and experimental evidence that gate model systems just can't beat classical on optimization, but annealing systems can. Then sometimes we'll hear, oh, annealing's just a niche. It only addresses a niche market. Well, is optimization a niche market? First of all, it's a full 25% of the TAM that we just discussed. But think about it. The numbers, 100 billion to 220 billion, bigger than the global semiconductor market, bigger than the global cybersecurity market. Are those niche markets? I don't think so. The point being that there's only one quantum computing company that can address the full TAM for quantum, and each of our products, our annealing quantum computers and our gate model quantum computers, are addressing a very significant portion of the TAM. Okay, let's move on to commercially viable products. I want to start by defining commercially viable. You will hear every quantum computing company say, we're commercial today. We've sold a quantum computer to this company, or this company is using our quantum computer to work on this collection of problems. Okay? Research experimentation with a quantum computer is not commercial use of the quantum computer. Commercial use of the quantum computer is using it as a part of your business operations on a daily basis, an integral part of your business operations. That's what it means to be commercial. So again, lots of noise, lots of hype. Oh, we're commercial. Next time, your favorite quantum computing company, other than D-Wave, because I know D-Wave is all of your favorite, but next time your other favorite quantum computing company says, oh, we're commercial, say, oh, who's the customer? What's the application? How often are they running it? Can I go talk to them? Ask us. We'd be more than happy for you to talk to our customers. Every time we have an event, we actually have customers participating in the event with us. So you gotta cut through the noise. Commercial means in use on a daily basis as part of business operations. Now, the customers that we bring on stage, some of them are commercial, some of them are still in the R&D phase, and we're clear to talk about that as we engage in those discussions. Okay, so let's start with our annealing products. Our flagship annealing quantum computer is our Advantage 2 system. It is a 4,500 qubit annealing quantum computer. We've also built a complete ecosystem of products around that. We have a quantum cloud service called Leap. This is designed to support business applications in production, building in the reliability, availability, security, privacy needed to be able to support commercial applications. We also have a complete suite of software development tools, our Ocean SDK, for building applications, leveraging our annealing systems. We have a suite of hybrid solvers that bring together classical and quantum to solve problems on the quantum computer that are larger than can natively fit onto the quantum computer. And we have a professional services capability for helping our customers understand which applications can most benefit from quantum and how to build out those applications. This is a very comprehensive and very mature platform of products in the annealing arena. We've got one of the largest aerospace companies working with our products, one of the largest airlines working with our products, one of the largest chemical companies working with our products, one of the largest mobile carriers working with our products. We're working with government contractors on national security and defense. This technology space is quite mature today. Still more work that needs to be done, but nonetheless, quite mature today. And we've talked about some of the metrics associated with improvements that these customers have seen leveraging our quantum computers. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. We've also pointed out that our annealing quantum computer, our Advantage quantum computer, is the only quantum computer in the world that has been able to solve a useful real-world problem that cannot be solved classically, true quantum supremacy. We published this in Science a little over a year ago. This is computing properties of materials that were computed on our system in 20 minutes. That's the image on the right. And it would take nearly 1 million years, billions of minutes, to solve it on the fastest supercomputers in the world. Now, I'm going to just diverge for a minute and talk about a little bit more hype, right? There are many people that would love to say we have not achieved supremacy on this system. And they try. You may have seen a headline a week or two ago that a group of researchers just published a paper in Science where they basically have shown that classical can solve the problem that we solved. Okay, go read the paper. Right? The headline and the paper are very different things. They have not solved all the lattices that we solved, all the sizes of the lattices that we solved, all the evolution times that we solved, and all the properties that we computed, all of which is required to achieve supremacy. They've done a small subset of what we have done. This supremacy result has been out there for almost 2 years now. It was published in Science a year ago. It was put on the Technical Archive a year before that, and it still stands. This is the one true demonstration of quantum supremacy. As far as our annealing roadmap is concerned, we've talked about the fact that our Advantage 3 system will have 100,000 qubits. We haven't really put dates around that previously, but now we are providing dates for the 100,000 qubit Advantage 3 system and a smaller 20,000 qubit version. There are 2 important technologies that are enabling our move from 4,500 qubits to, or 4,400 qubits, sorry for rounding up, to 100,000 qubits. They are multi-chip, so basically moving from more qubits on a chip to interconnecting processor chips, multi-chip, and scalable control. On the multi-chip front, basically what we're talking about, and it's shown here, tiling in 2 dimensions are 4,500 qubit processor chips. So, 4 to 5 chips to get to 20,000 qubits, 25 or so chips to get to 100,000 qubits. We need to be able to interconnect these things electrically through bonds that are superconducting and preserve quantum mechanical properties. This is work that we've been doing with the NASA Jet Propulsion Lab. We've developed the materials and the process for this, and we've actually been able to demonstrate the ability to bond chips and preserve these properties. So that was one of the two technical challenges that we needed to overcome to drive to the Advantage 300,000 qubit system. The second, scalable control. And this is a really important point because it's going to come back when we talk about the gate model systems as well. So typically, if you go ask anybody in the industry, how many control lines do you need to control a qubit? You'll hear 3 to 5 per qubit. So that would mean that our 4,500 qubit Advantage 2 system would require 12 to 20,000 I/O lines. We control that 4,500 qubit processor with 2 to 300 I/O lines because we've been able to build data pipelining, multiplexing, addressing onto the processor chip, which means we can much more efficiently control the qubits. And that's critically important. Now, when we go from 4,500 to 100,000 qubits, though, we can't have a 25-fold increase in the number of I/O lines. So we've been working on modifying our control architecture to make it even more scalable than it has been up until now. We've completed the design. We've completed the masks for the first chips to basically test out the design, and they're going through fabrication now. And that's the second important component of being able to scale to the 100,000 qubit processor. Both of these technologies are well down the development path, but obviously we have some time and work to test and really kind of wring out any issues associated with either of these technologies. But we're quite enthusiastic about the path to 100,000 qubits. And why is this important? So if we think about our current 4,500 qubit system, when combined with our hybrid solvers, we can support problems with up to 2 million variables. And that's fine for solving a lot of problems. But if, for example, we wanted to solve full-up last-mile routing for FedEx or UPS, that would require 50 million variables. So we still have to continue scaling on the annealing side to solve larger and more complex problems. All right, now I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the gate systems. We announced quite a few years ago that we were going to start working on a gate model quantum computer as well. A lot of the work that we had been doing was looking at how you could take that control architecture that I talked about for annealing systems and move it into the gate model environment. We had not spent as much time on high-quality qubits and the ability to error correct those qubits. But what you need in order to have a commercially viable gate model quantum computer is you need error correction, an efficient error correction, you need scale, and you need for the systems to be fast, right? Nobody wants a slow quantum computer. And so we've been focused on how to advance the state of the art and our technology development in each of those areas. Efficient error correction, scalable systems, fast computation. So we're bringing together to solve this collection of problems two critically important technologies. Relative to the ability to efficiently error correct and have fast computation, we closed the acquisition of Quantum Circuits in January. This was a company that was spun out of Yale University and founded to basically commercialize some very important new qubit technology advances that had been developed at Yale. And in a few minutes, you're going to hear from Rob Shulkoff, who was leading all of that work at Yale and was the founder of Quantum Circuits. The qubit technology that was developed at Yale, spun out into Quantum Circuits, acquired by D-Wave, is very revolutionary. First of all, it is superconducting qubit technology, which means it is fast. Superconducting qubits run 1,000 to 10,000 times faster than trapped ion or neutral atom qubits. These are superconducting qubits. They're very fast. But typically, the trapped ion or neutral atom folks won't argue that they're slower, but they'll say, but our qubits are more natural qubits. They're more efficient qubits. They're much easier to error correct. Superconducting may never be able to error correct. Well, here's the really important thing about the new qubit technology called dual rail qubits. They have the same efficiency as trapped ions or neutral atoms. So think about it. These are revolutionary qubits that have the speed of superconducting and the efficiency or reliability when it comes to error correction of trapped ions or neutral atoms, the best of both worlds. Right? Then we are going to marry that with the control technology that we had developed for our annealing quantum computers to allow us to much more efficiently scale these gate model systems, essentially attacking all three of the elements required to truly have a commercially viable gate model system: efficient error correction, scalability, and speed. Think about it this way. Trapped ions or neutral atoms are like a bicycle. Simple and efficient, easy to error correct, but slow. Superconducting, the things that IBM or Google are using, very, very fast, but very complex, not all that reliable, kind of like an old piston airplane. D-Wave's dual rail qubits are the best of both worlds. They are fast, but they are also simpler and far more reliable, like turbine jet engines. The best of both worlds. Okay, let me just provide some metrics now to help back this up. We think that there are two metrics that it's really important for everybody to start focusing on when it comes to getting to truly commercially viable gate model quantum computers. One is speed, and the other we're calling lambda. This is the error correction efficiency. And I'm going to spend a minute talking through this. First of all, speed. The chart on the left shows you the time required to perform an error correction cycle on superconducting, trapped ion, and neutral atom. Look at that. 5 microseconds for superconducting, 30,000 microseconds for ions, 200,000 for neutral atoms. They are very, very slow technologies. Okay, so superconducting, fast, and I think everybody accepts that, right? The debate really has more to do with, yeah, but can you actually error correct these superconducting qubits? So that's where we think lambda becomes very important. Lambda is the rate at which you can reduce errors as the error correction code increases. So if we look at the chart on the right, okay, at the top, I have surface code distances. Surface code is the typical code used to error correct gate model quantum computers. And there are 4 surface code distances shown there. Distance code 3, 5, 7, 9. And typically the number of physical qubits you need is the square of the distance of the surface code. Okay, surface because it's got a length and a width. Okay? Okay, so at distance 3, you know, okay, 9, we're saying 17 physical per logical qubit. Distance code, distance 5, 25, 49, there's a factor of 2, which I'm kind of glossing over. 7, 49 times 2, 97, 9, 81 times 2, 181, okay? So Distance 3, distance 5, distance 7, distance 9 are increasingly larger surface codes for doing error correction. And the larger the code, the better the error correction. At the bottom is the number of physical qubits that you need per error-corrected qubit, logical error-corrected qubit, for each of those distance surface codes. Now, look at the two lines. Currently in the industry, we're looking at a lambda of 2. What this means is that as you increase the surface code distance, you half the errors. So you get 1/2 the errors for each increment in the surface code. That's the gray line. Okay? What we're looking at with our dual rail qubits is a lambda of 10. With each increment in the surface code, we get a factor of 10 reduction in errors. This becomes really important if you think about what you need to actually be able to use a gate model quantum computer. You need to be able to perform computations. And you need the errors to be low enough that you can perform all those computations before an error emerges. We think that we're going to need about 1 million computations to start doing useful work. This means we need an error rate of 10 to the minus 6, 1 error in 1 million, in order to be commercially viable. So now look at those two lines. At a lambda of 10, you can get to 10 to the minus 6 with a distance 9 surface code, roughly 100 to 200 physical to logical qubits. That's the path we're on with our gate model program. That's very viable. Right? The gray line, where the industry is right now, what would it take to get to 10 to the minus 6? We're talking 1,000 or more physical qubits per logical qubit by the time that gray line gets out to 10 to the minus 6. Okay? That's the power in the dual rail super qubits. They are superconducting, fast, with a very rapid decline in error rate as we increase the error correction. So, for our product roadmap for gate model, we've divided it into 2 eras, what we call the post-NISQ era, where we start seeing some error detection capability that we can use in the computation, and then the fault-tolerant era, which is where we're actually at the point where we can really perform up to 1 million computations and do useful work. So this is what you can expect from D-Wave over the course of the next roughly 6 years, with the goal being that in 2032, we would have 100 logical qubits built on 10 to 20,000 physical qubits with an ability to support up to 1 million gates or computations. Actually, the beginning of commercial viability. So this is what you need to be asking others about. Well, what's the speed of your computation? How rapidly are you going to be able to reduce errors as you increase the error-correcting code? And when will you be able to support at least 1 million computations? Those are the key elements. Okay? The only other thing I'm going to say about the products is we were really, really pleased to be a part of the US government announcement a week or so ago, basically talking about the fact that the US government is providing D-Wave, along with a number of other companies, funding to basically support R&D work around the development of quantum computers. This was really important for D-Wave for 2 reasons. First of all, this was the first time the US government had actually endorsed D-Wave. And secondly, they not only endorsed D-Wave, but they endorsed both annealing and gate. So now the US government has finally started to realize annealing is important alongside gate. They are both important. And this was an endorsement of both of those approaches to quantum computing. Okay, now what I want to do is transition and start talking about customers and customer value. And I want to start by, in a minute, asking Lucas Haugen to join me up here on stage. Lucas is from AT&T. To be fair, AT&T is not in production today, but they are working with our quantum computers on a variety of applications. Lucas is an innovative director of data science at AT&T's Chief Data Office, where he leads a world-class team of data scientists, ML engineers, developers, and solution architects to deliver enterprise-scale impact. He's recognized as a leader in digital transformation, leveraging agentic AI, advanced machine learning, automation, and big data engineering to drive operational excellence and create business value approaching $1 billion annually for AT&T. Lucas and his team began exploring D-Wave's impact on their operation at AT&T less than a year ago, and he's here to talk a little bit about that experience. Lucas?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, Lucas. So maybe, yeah, go ahead, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
So maybe you can start by telling us how AT&T is working with D-Wave quantum computing technology.
Yeah, sure. So again, we're kind of getting started. We've been working on it for a little bit. We're kind of focusing on two main problems. Of course, we're working on tackling traditional optimization problems that we're doing with classical compute today. And then we're also trying to adapt the solvers to do kind of tackle our high intensity compute problems, see if we can get a little bit of a quantum HPC advantage out of that.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the use cases you're exploring or planning to explore?
Yeah. So basically, we're looking at pretty much use cases across the full spectrum or all facets of our network operations front. Some examples are going to be our technician routing optimization. That's a big one, of course. We're also looking at another big one is identifying network outages and then managing those. How can we make that more efficient and more quickly? We're moving into network build optimization and even some of the network traffic optimization is kind of the use cases we're exploring.
And how has it been to work with D-Wave?
Yeah, so I will say that I think one of the, at least in my opinion, one of the understated benefits of the D-Wave solvers is how easy they are to use. You take my team, a group of data scientists and engineers, and myself, and we're onboarding right away with it. We've got little bits of, basically anyone with a data science background used to cranking through algorithms can pick them right up. You don't have to have a physics background. The other thing, this is very profound as well. Because you mentioned the Ocean SDK, we can do much of the, I would say heavy lifting, but much of the upfront work is in our own environment. And when we take the quantum use, we're basically just sending off a little array, I say little, right? It's simple, but very big, array of bits or points in two-dimensional space. That's derived from our problem set. It has nothing to do with AT&T data. It protects all of our private, sensitive IP. Nothing goes to D-Wave. Not to imply that it's not secure, it just, I'll tell you, it takes a tremendous burden off of my team to not have to go to governance, data governance, and security, and it's just, it's safe. We're not sending anything. We're literally sending nothing because we don't have to. I'll also point out that every time we've needed it, your solvers have been available. That's a massive advantage in kind of our space where we're cranking through quite a bit. So overall, it's very easy for my team and me to use.
Yeah, I actually just want to reinforce the security comment for a minute. First of all, we have SOC 2 Type 2 compliance for our platform all the way through to the quantum computers. We focus heavily on security and privacy. But the point you made is really important. It's not that you don't send things. You actually send a lot of data to our systems. But what you're sending is a matrix and a vector. It's a set of numbers that cannot be reversed engineered into any user data or even the problem that you're trying to solve. So it's a very opaque data transfer that provides protection.
And we can't stress that enough because I don't have to worry about masking data, encrypting data, or anything of that nature. All it is a derived set of numbers from our problem set, which is meaningless otherwise without that context. Yeah.
So as you look to the future, where do you see the opportunities for AT&T with quantum computing?
I think I touched on it a little bit. I think for us, it's two profound opportunities with D-Wave. Again, we're kind of looking at with the quantum tunneling, the adiabatic, that's one of my favorite words, by the way. The architecture itself is to optimize what we're doing today, we can take in seconds, we can accomplish what's taking us hours and days to do with classical optimization problems. The second thing is we probably crank through hundreds of billions of signals in our real-time data use cases. And what we're trying to do is leverage the solvers to offset a lot of that. And so basically kind of twist it into kind of a high-performance computing thing. So with optimization, I think we've got an application we've already cranked from an hour down to less than 15 seconds. And then we're looking at exploring the HPC aspect. We can see with kind of preliminary results the potential for magnitudes of order of improvement in what we're seeing today, just in our speed and efficiency.
So maybe just one last question. What advice would you give to other companies who may be curious about or interested in quantum?
That's a good way. I think up front, and you kind of touched on this as well, is don't be afraid of I guess the aspects of the quantum physics part of it. You don't really need the background to work with it. Also, having said that, be careful that quasi-echo chamber of experts and pundits and academics saying it's not real, it's not available, it's not ready yet. It is. Give it a try. It's pretty profound. For us, I think it's just a matter of, again, we don't have the background in physics. I can't explain annealing perfectly, but we can use it, and it's a huge lift for our operation. Most importantly is knowing how to formulate your problems in your operation, your domain. That's the trick, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. Lucas, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
And in just a minute, when Lorenzo comes up, he'll talk a little bit about how we work with customers to help kind of evaluate problems, understand which can benefit from quantum, and how to build out proofs of technology or proof of concept to really validate them. But thank you for being here, Lucas. Appreciate it. So, I'm pretty regularly now asked about the relationship between quantum and AI. I guess because everybody's kind of got AI on the brain these days. So let me just spend a minute talking about my view on this. I think that AI and quantum are very synergistic. And they work well with one another in two ways. One, they're each good at different sorts of things, and you can use them together to solve a problem, letting each work on the part of the problem that it's best at addressing. For example, you might use AI to predict product demand for the future, and then use quantum to optimize the supply chain to meet that demand. So here you have the two technologies working side by side to solve a problem, each addressing the portion of the problem that it's best at solving. The second, quantum can help make AI model training and inference better, faster, and more power efficient. We have been working for a little over a year now with a Japanese pharmaceutical company called Shionogi. They essentially trained a model to generate molecular structures for new human drugs. And they trained the model classically, and they were getting good results. They retrained the model using our quantum computer. And what they found was that 10x, 10 times more of the structures generated were well suited to human drugs. In other words, the model was more accurate. It was also trained faster and consumed less power. So here we have a situation where we're actually using quantum to make AI even more efficient and more powerful. And I think over time, AI and quantum are going to come together in both of those ways, the latter potentially very transformative. And then finally, I wanted to spend a minute on blockchain. There's some very interesting work going on right now in the quantum classical blockchain arena. We've been doing some work with a small company called Post-Quant Labs. They've developed a testnet for a new approach to proof of work. The proof of work computation can be done either classically on CPUs and GPUs, or it can be done using a quantum computer. They currently have over 18,000 people mining in the testnet, and 1,600 compute nodes on the net. Those compute nodes are mostly CPUs and GPUs, and then our Advantage2 quantum computer. Now, our quantum computer is not online all the time. We put it online for about 5 minutes a day. When it goes online, it wins almost all the blocks. In other words, it's much faster at doing the mining. It's also more power efficient. And so what we're trying to do here is demonstrate, on the one hand, using a problem that can be solved by either quantum or classical, the value that the quantum computer brings over classical. Another example, perhaps, of quantum advantage, right? But in addition to that, showing that if you use the quantum computer, we can actually do the mining more efficiently and with lower power consumption. And by the way, it's quantum safe. In other words, a quantum computer can't break the system. So this is an interesting new application area for us. We're quite excited about the early results we're seeing. We have started a more substantial benchmarking phase to really understand the difference between the classical and the quantum on this test net. And at some point in the not too distant future, we will publish those results. Okay, so before we kind of do the first Q&A session, let me just wrap up by going back to Feynman and just reiterating. Quantum mechanics is hard, and as a result, it's easy to spew nonsense and convince people of things that just aren't real. And you always have to challenge. Like I said, customers, who's the customer? How are they using it? Can I go talk to them? Scientific result. Oh, we've been able to solve this optimization problem better than classical. Well, okay, where's the paper? Let me go read the paper and see, are they really doing that? Or is it kind of like, well, we can solve it as well as a laptop can solve it, not better than classical. Always challenge. So for us, we are focused on addressing the full market for quantum, every use case, by bringing both annealing and gate model systems to market. We've proven our ability to deliver commercially viable products through our Advantage2 annealing system and the technological platform that we have built around that, and we're bringing that expertise into the gate model world as we speak. And we actually have customers that are using us today as a part of their business operations. In Q1, we announced a Fortune 100 company had signed a 2-year, $10 million quantum compute as a service agreement for us. I can tell you they have moved their first application in production. So it is now running on a daily basis in production, and we are working with them on several other applications. This was our first, if you like, enterprise site license. With that, I would be happy to take some questions. Well, okay, let's go to the very back of the room.
I've got Krish Shankar.
Yeah, hey, Alan, it's Krish Shankar from TD Cowen. Quick question on the dual rail technology. At what point would the technology incorporate D-Wave's design compared to the current QCI technology it's using? And in the future, would you move from transmons to fluxonium qubits, or any decision on that? Thanks.
Yeah. So QCI had a 3-year roadmap that was 8 qubits, 17 qubits, 49 qubits, 181 qubits, which is a roadmap that we strongly believed in, and that is the plan for the next roughly 3 years. What we are doing now is working across the teams on what happens after 2028. How do we get to the 1,000 physical qubit, 10 logical qubit processor in 2030, and the 100 logical qubit able to process 1 million operations in 2032. That's where we'll start to see the technologies between what was D-Wave and what was quantum circuits really starting to come together. As far as, transmon versus other, I'm going to wait till Trevor and Rob talk about the roadmap, and maybe they'll call on you to ask that question again. Back there.
Hey, Alan. Matt Smaglia, Quantum Coast Capital.
Oh, I know you, Matt.
Yeah, you do. So question for you. How has what was the impetus essentially for the move to Florida? And also, how has that been going along so far and some of the energy behind it? And I think lastly, the FAU Advantage 2 system, what are some of your hopes and dreams out of that?
It's almost like Matt is a plant. So I will tell you, the first, Matt connected with me like a year plus ago and said, you should really move to Florida. Let me show you around. And so, we got in a car together, drove around Palm Beach. He showed me all the different areas. So that's, in some sense, where it all started. Look, we are well down the path of getting the headquarters facility up and running. Our goal is to have that up end of September, early October. And then the R&D center will take a little bit longer, hopefully before the end of Q1 of next year. So we're well down the path of moving the corporate offices as well as getting the R&D center set up. And we're quite excited to be there. And the relationship with Florida Atlantic is very important. I mean, interestingly, it's not just Florida Atlantic. One of the things I really liked about the environment in Florida is the universities there all work together. So we may have a relationship with Florida Atlantic. We may be putting a quantum computer at their site, but they're actually a conduit to all the universities in the area, and frankly, a variety of other really important high-tech companies that we can work with. So, we can't get there fast enough, and we're really excited about it. Yeah.
Thank you. John McPeak at Rosenblatt Securities. Good to see you. Thanks for doing this. So could you, not a technical question, but talk about the importance of on-qubit or on-chip qubit control, what kind of ratios you can get? Because I think, you mentioned the 3 to 4 that the competitors use, and the scalability issue is really big as you get out with more physicals.
Yeah. Okay, so it's sometimes we call it cryogenic control. In the annealing processors, what we were able to do was put control logic, not so much the actual control, but more how the control signals get down to the qubits so that we didn't have to have massive numbers of I/O lines coming in and lots of electronics. We were able to put active components on the same chip as the qubits to be able to facilitate that. And so that dramatically reduced the control infrastructure, the control costs, the I/O lines that were going down into the chip. And with annealing, we were actually able to put that all in the same chip as the qubits. With gate model, the qubits are far more sensitive. They're much more fragile than the annealing qubits are. And as a result, we don't think we can put that on the same chip as the qubits, but that bonding technology I talked about for the multi-chip annealing processor, that we're going to reuse to be able to have a control chip that is bonded to the qubit chip, right? So that we still have the cryogenic control. We still have the control in the refrigerator. We're still able to dramatically reduce the control infrastructure and the number of I/O lines going down to the chip. But it's not all on the same chip. It's control chip, processing chip bonded together. I'll probably say something that that'll make Trevor and Rob go, start squirming in their chairs. But our goal is the same thing that we've been able to do for annealing. I mean, we say orders of magnitude fewer, right? I mean, for me, if we did square root of n, for n qubits, square root of n control lines, I think that would be great. But that is orders of magnitude fewer. Yep.
Thank you. Antoine Legault from Wedbush Securities. You have some important customers in Pattison Food Group, Ford Otosan in Turkey. What would you need to achieve to replicate what you're doing with, say, Ford Otosan with Ford and GM and the big three automakers in Detroit? Like, is it once you reach the 20,000 qubit annealing system or 100,000 qubit? Just give us a sense of what you need to do to unlock larger customers in the future.
Yeah. So moving from one automotive manufacturer to another isn't really so much about a larger system. It's about convincing them, A, that the system can solve their problems. Now, as customers that are seeing good results with our systems become referenceable, that helps that piece of it. The other piece is, honestly, integration within their IT environment. Right? So, the biggest challenge to getting something into production is getting the data that's needed to formulate the problem to be sent to the quantum computer. And that ends up being, frankly, most of the heavy lifting. I mean, the customers that have moved into production, we got through the proof of concept and the benchmarking in maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then it can be another year after that to get the IT environment and the infrastructure set up to be able to accept the problem. As we go to larger companies, that becomes harder. And that's really the bottleneck. It's not so much about the technology. Okay. Greg?
Craig Ellis, B. Riley Securities. Alan, thanks so much for doing the event. No, it takes a lot of work. The question goes back to the point you made about U.S. government recognition and the award. You've talked for years about your view that the government didn't appreciate what the company was doing, and now it does, clearly. So the question is this: what are the specific opportunities that open up for D-Wave, and are there commercial businesses that might not have been as open to you without that endorsement that now are, and what does it take to execute there? Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, as important as the participation in the CHIPS funding was with respect to the US government endorsement, the thing that more caused our phone to start ringing off the hook or whatever they call it, it brings back an old image of a telephone, was when Anduril participated in our customer conference back in January. That really changed the view within the US government. And we created a new organization to go after US government opportunities headed by Jack Sears. And he's got a very significant pipeline now of opportunities across many different parts of the government, mostly Department of War and Defense, but some broader than that as well. So, I think maybe even the CHIPS funding was in part as a result of that. I don't know that to be a fact, but that was very transformative for us. The fact that we were able to be successful with that use case and that they were very willing to talk about it. Maybe one last question. Anybody on this side of the room? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Matt Rouse, individual investor. Do you see D-Wave or any other quantum companies rather following the annealing path? If once you show what you're doing and it's successful, do you think someone else is like, oh, we should have done that?
Yeah, I love your shirt.
Thank you.
And we didn't make that shirt. So there are some companies that are starting to experiment with it. Very small, like 4 qubit. There are some neutral atom companies like QEra that are trying to explore running an annealing protocol within their neutral atom processors. But here's what I'll say. First of all, trying to do annealing within a neutral atom or a trapped ion or any gate model processor is a loser. It's kind of like if you want to do gaming on your system, do you want to run graphics software or do you want a GPU? Right? That's the difference between trying to actually get annealing to work on a gate model system versus having an annealing processor. So I don't think those approaches will ever be truly competitive to what we're doing with our annealing processors. As far as some of the attempts to build annealing systems, I think we could start to see more of that, but you need to keep 2 things in mind. First of all, we've got a 20-year head start, and we're not standing still. And we had to solve a lot of really hard problems to get to this point. Second, we have a huge patent moat. I mean, we've been patenting a significant number of patents every one of those 20 years. Right? Many of them still active. So it's going to be really hard for anybody to compete with us in the annealing space. Okay, thank you all. I think next is Trevor.
Please welcome to the stage Chief Development Officer Trevor Lanting.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see so many people here in person, and I understand there's several hundred people that have dialed in via online, via Zoom. My name is Trevor Lanting. I am the Chief Development Officer at D-Wave. I lead our research and product development teams. I want to thank all of you for being here in person. I want to thank the people who are calling in online. Over the course of this session, along with my colleague, Dr. Rob Shokoff, are going to do a deeper dive on our product roadmap, both on the annealing side first, and then Rob will come up to the stage and talk about our gate model development path. Alan gave a lot of details on why we think we're going to be the first to deliver fault-tolerant gate model systems. We're going to talk about really the exciting applications that we're unlocking with our annealing systems and where we're most excited in terms of applications for the gate model space, and really hope to give you a sense of where we're going with the technology over the next several years. Our mission at D-Wave from the beginning and continues to be developing quantum computing technology to solve our customers' hard problems and making that technology available to our customers as soon as possible. We have a dual platform approach to building technology. Alan spoke a little bit about annealing and gate model technologies and how they're complementary. Annealing addresses a wide variety of use cases. Fundamentally, quantum optimization is one of the killer apps of annealing technology. But there's some use cases or applications that annealing is not going to be able to address effectively. Conversely, gate model systems will address a wide range of use cases. We're very excited about quantum chemistry as one of these early application areas. But gate model systems really, and I'll talk a little bit about the growing experimental, empirical, and theoretical evidence that gate model systems will not be able to attack optimization problems. We chose to start our development platform, our development strategy with annealing systems now 15 plus years ago for several reasons. First, engineering the qubit controls for annealing systems is quite a bit easier than for gate systems. So this has allowed us to scale up our annealing systems quite a bit faster. And we're now at the scale of over 4,400 qubits in our Advantage2 annealing systems. The second reason is that annealing systems are quite a bit more resilient to errors. Alan spoke